Hello children, good morning. How are you all, my dear cadets? Okay, very good. So did you read the story, The Selfish Giant? Okay, very good. Did you like it? I liked it. It's a beautiful story. Did you understand what is the lesson about? Okay, children, very good. It's a very interesting story. So, children, in this session, we'll do the questions and answers, okay? So, let's begin. The Selfish Giant. It so happened. It is from which book? It so happened. The Selfish Giant. Comprehension check, page number 20. Questions. Why is the giant called selfish? No, sorry. On one occasion, the child said, "How happy we are here." Later they said, "How happy we were there." What are they referring to in both the cases? When spring came, it was still winter in the garden. What does winter stand for or indicate here? Winter has been presented like a story with its own characters and their activities. Describe the story in your own words. Was the giant happy or sad over the state of the garden? Was he happy or sad? What effect did the linnet song have over hail and the north wind? Okay, children, let's have a look at the answers now. The first answer. The giant was called selfish because he wanted to keep his garden reserved only for himself. He banned the entry of outsiders there. In both the cases, the children are referring to the giant's garden. In the first sentence, they say they are enjoying in the giant's garden. They were so happy there. But in the second sentence, it is beyond their reach. They are not permitted to enter the giant's garden. You remember the story, children? Very good. Third one, the first. Winter indicates that flowers did not bloom in the giant's garden. The birds didn't sing. There was no sign of joy, happiness and greenery. Second, winter has been portrayed as destroyer. It has its own characters. Snow and frost are the most prominent factors. Trees have been covered with white cloak. The trees look so dull and lifeless. North wind has come to stay there permanently. Hails settle on the roof. The fourth answer. The giant felt sad to see the state of his garden. Different seasons brought no change in it. Why? It was always winter in his garden. Fifth one. As an effect of the linnet song. Linnet is a bird, children. So as an effect of the linnet's song, the hail stopped dancing over his head. Similarly, the north wind ceased roaring. Okay, now comprehension check, page number 24. Questions. The giant saw a most wonderful sight. What did he see? What did he realize on seeing it? Why was it still winter in one corner of the garden? Describe the meeting of the little boy and the giant. Fourth one, describe their second meeting after a long interval. Fifth, the giant lay dead, all covered with white blossoms. What does this sentence indicate about the once selfish giant? Answers. First, the giant saw through a little hole in the wall. The children had entered into the garden. They were sitting in the branches of trees. In every tree that he could see, there was a little child, and the trees were glad to have the children back again, that they had covered themselves with blossoms and were waving their hands gently. They were waving above the children's head, above the children's heads. So he was waving his hand above the children's heads. Yeah? What was he doing? Waving. The birds were flying and twittering with delight, that is, with happiness. The flowers were laughing. He realized that he himself was to blame for the year-round winter in his garden. He called himself selfish. Second, only in one corner of the garden there was still winter. The reason was that the little boy could not climb the tree like other boys. He stood under the tree weeping. Weeping means crying. Third, in the first meeting of the boy and the giant lifted him gently and put him in the branch of that tree. The tree suddenly broke into flowers and the birds began to sing. Why? Because they were happy. The child kissed the giant. The fourth one, in the second meeting after so many years, the giant saw wounds on the little boy's palm and feet. He became furious, that means very angry. He wanted to kill the man who had wounded the child. But the boy said that those were wounds of love. Fifth one, this indicates that the giant had been blessed by Lord Christ himself. He was neither cruel nor selfish. So Christ forgave him and took him to paradise. Okay, children, now exercise on page 24. Discuss the following topics in groups. That's not possible, right, children? Because you are in your respective homes. You're not in school. So you cannot do any group discussion. No problem. You think about the answer and you write it down in your notebooks. Okay. The first question. The little child's hand. The little child's hand and feet had marks of nails. What does the child remind you of? Give a reason for your answer. The nails marks on the child's hands and feet remind us of Lord Christ. He was put on a cross and nails were hammered into his palms and feet. The second question, is there something like this garden near where you live? Would you like one? Without the giant perhaps. And why? What would you do to keep it in good shape? Yes, you have to keep it neat and clean. A park is a public place. It is like the lungs in the human body. It gives us fresh air. The greenery is soothing to the eyes. A private garden, however, has to be used by the people with care and caution. The children must not spoil the flower beds and the grassy lawns, even in a public park. I would never play football in a park, nor let other children do so. Okay, more questions solved. The short answer type. The first one, describe in brief the giant's garden. The giant's garden was very beautiful. It had soft green grass, Here and there over the grass stood beautiful flowers like stars, and there were 12 peach trees. Peach is a fruit that in the springtime broke out into delicate blossoms of pink and pearl, and in autumn bore rich fruit. Where had the giant gone? What did he see when he arrived? The giant had gone to his friend, the Cornish ogre, and had stayed with him for 7 long years. Oh my God! When he arrived, he saw the children playing in the garden. Why did he build a high wall round his garden? He didn't want the children to play in his garden. Therefore, he built a high wall round it in order to stop them from entering it. Okay, the next question. What happened to the giant's garden when the spring came? All over the country there were little blossoms and all over there were little blossoms and beautiful little birds, but the giant's garden remained deprived of them. There's still winter there instead of spring. The birds didn't care to sing in it, as there were no children and the trees forgot to blossom. What changes came to be noticed in the giant's behavior? Previously, he was a selfish giant. He didn't like children, and they're playing in his garden. But one day he realized his fault and became affectionate towards them. He started loving them once again. He opened his garden for them. He began to play with them. Long answer type questions. Who did the giant love most and why? The giant loved the little boy because he had kissed him. He felt helpless and began to cry. The giant saw him. His heart melted all of a sudden. He came to the little boy and put him into the tree. The tree broke at once into blossom, and the birds came and sang on it. The little boy became so happy, he stretched out his 2 arms and flung them round the giant's neck and kissed him. The giant was so happy, his joy knew no bounds. He, that is the giant, made the little boy his friend. What evidence do you find in the story about the giant's selfishness and wicked nature? Did he stick to this? How do you know? The giant was self-centered and wicked. He wanted his garden only for his own use. He forbade the entry of children there. He put up a notice board that whosoever entered the garden without his permission would be punished. So he said whosoever would enter would be punished. He also got a high wall constructed all round it. Children were horrified to see this. They flew away from the garden. It shows the giant's selfishness and wicked nature. So he didn't stick to this. But he didn't stick to this. He became soft towards the children. He loved them. He broke the wall that he had constructed around his garden and allowed the children to play there. He regarded the children as the most beautiful flowers of all. Okay, a few more questions and answers. Where did the children used to play? The children used to play in a beautiful garden of the giant during afternoon time after school. What did the snow and the frost do to the garden? The snow and the frost were the 2 agents who appeared in the giant's garden after the rude behavior of the giant against the children. The snow covered up the grass with a great white cloak, and the frost painted all the trees silver. They even invited the north wind to stay with them. What did the giant hear when he was lying awake in bed? The giant heard some lovely music of a little singing bird, linnet. When he was lying awake in bed, he heard the music after a long time. Why do you think spring season never came to the giant's garden? I think the spring season even became sad along with the children. She became so angry and never came to the giant's garden to find the giant's rudeness and selfishness against the innocent children. How did the giant realize his mistake? The giant realized his mistake by experiencing unusual changes in his garden. He found out snow, frost, north wind, fog in his garden. He felt guilty himself for those acts which he had done against the children. When the children reappeared in his garden, the garden once again bloomed with leaves and flowers. He even heard the chirping of the birds in his garden. Thus he realized his mistake. Okay. Reference to the context. You have to read the extracts and then answer the questions. How happy we were there, they said to each other. What does there refer to? There refers to the giant's garden where children used to play after school. What does there refer to? They refers to the children who used to come and play in the giant's garden after school. What does they refer to? They refers to children. I said that. Why are they saying so? They are saying so because they aren't allowed to play in the giant's garden anymore. The giant has chased them out of his garden. Being furious means very angry. I have many beautiful flowers, he said, but the children are the most beautiful flowers of all. Who is the speaker? The speaker is an old and feeble means weak giant who keeps on watching the children at their play, sitting on his armchair. Who is he speaking to? He's speaking to himself, admiring his garden. Who are the children that the speaker is referring to? The children that the speaker is referring to are the small and innocent school children who enjoy a lot in the giant's garden. Why is the speaker saying that the children are the most beautiful flowers of all? Most beautiful flowers of all? The speaker is saying that the children are the most beautiful flowers of all because he has experienced the presence of children in his garden. He has observed their simplicity and innocence. He believes that the children are the gift of beautiful nature and their presence has made the entire garden look so beautiful and bloom with different kinds of flowers and fruits. He makes the comparison here to value the children much because he knows the value of children in his garden than the flowers. When the little child smiled at the giant and said to him, "You let me play once in your garden. Today you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise." Shortly afterwards, the happy giant dies. What is the coincidence of this event? Describe it in relation to this fairy tale. The next time the little child reappears in one of the garden's corners, the giant is quite old and feeble at that time. The child appears this time to favor the giant who once had favored him to play in his garden. The giant keeps on searching and waiting for the little child. He is in reality alive only to meet the enchanted little child. Finally, after the little child's words, he dies in the very afternoon. So he dies. Yes, children, I'll teach you something new. Okay. See, children, personification, figure of speech. Okay. Now, what is personification? Yeah, I'll tell you. See, here winter is a personified. It is talked of as a person. The three examples of personification are snow, frost. The snow has come, it is not leaving. The frost has come. They are being talked about as persons. When life is given to inanimate objects, it becomes personification. It is called personification. It is a figure of speech. Remember that. In higher classes also you'll come across this. So remember that. You may note down. The significance of the seasons personified in the story is that they are related to nature and play a very vital role in transforming the giant's garden with a unique force against bad deeds. Okay. Now symbolism also we have. Now what is this symbolism? Here the spring season symbolizes happiness, winter season symbolizes unhappiness, suffering. The tree symbolizes the identity of the child as Christ. The corner of the garden symbolizes the sacred place of God from where redemption is possible. The snow, the wind and the frost symbolize unique force against bad deeds. Yeah. Okay. So, please note down whatever we have done in this session. It's all very important. Go through the story again and again. Revise all the questions and answers again and again. Okay, children, that's all. Bye-bye. Take care.